Hello and welcome to another edition of High, Wide, and Handsome, the show that brings you inside the high variety of topics inside the NASCAR garage, wide open discussion with you, the fans, brought to you every week by your handsome pit reporter, Brady Van Sickle. Well, fans, preseason thunder is underway, and we've had a lot of stuff to catch you up with. We've had preseason thunder testing down at Daytona. We had media week just last week, and we here at High, Wide, and Handsome have been busy getting ready to preview every top series. So we're going to get started right now with the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Probably one of the biggest news stories for the Truck Series that's not quite been publicized yet is that NASCAR is talking about redesigning the current model with the redesigns of the Cup car last year and the Nationwide car a couple of years ago. The sanctioning body determined it was time to redesign our Truck Series and give a brand new model for fans to look at, admire, and kind of bring a little bit more brand identity into the truck. So be interesting to see how that pans out. They'll be having tests for that, and hopefully we'll get that launched in 2014. So make sure you keep on top for that. Probably the biggest news for the Truck Series this year is the new venues. We'll be going back to the dirt tracks with Eldora Speedway here, Tony Stewart's little bull ring in Ohio. This will be the first NASCAR sanctioned race there at a dirt track since the 1970s, and it was heard online that the race is already nearing its sellout, so those tickets are going to be hard to come by, so that'll be an interesting race. And for the first time in Truck Series history, they'll be crossing the borders into Canada for a road course race nonetheless, and I just think that's a really good idea. I mean, you have these newer up-and-coming stars. They need that road course experience because the Cup and the Nationwide cars, they race on road courses, and some of your young drivers like Ricky Stenhouse, it took him forever to get acclimated to the road courses, and it almost hurt him in his first championship season. And Austin Dillon last year, he lost tremendous ground in the championship fight, so it's really glad I give kudos to NASCAR for incorporating this into the schedule to get these younger drivers acclimated to turning left and right. So look for that next year. The dates for those will be July 24th for Eldora and September 1st for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And now Cale Gale, many of you will remember him for that stunning last lap hold-off of Kyle Busch in last year's Homestead race. He not only won the race, but he drove Kyle Busch into the wall to make sure he maintained that win, which is his only Truck Series win. Now, it was really questioned whether or not he returned to the series this year as a driver, but it was announced that he will not be driving anymore and instead will take on a new role as crew chief for his good friend Brandon Jones at Turner Scott Motorsports. Now, he's been kind of a mentor and been tutoring Brandon as he's been working his way up, and so he's also going to continue that role and help this driver to grow. And who knows, he could be the next Paul Wolfe. Be interesting to see how that pans out and see how their relationship as a driver crew chief grow. So, some other additional news and notes. It was announced that Turner Scott Motorsports has got a little bit of ownership changes. Harry Scott Jr., who is part owner in the team, has expanded his ownership, so which is why it's gone from just Turner Motorsports to include his name in it as well. It was announced there was an age limit drop. Drivers who are 16 years can compete in a NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race when their tracks are 1.1 miles or less, or on the road course races there. So that's where Brandon Jones comes in. He'll be competing after he hits 16 sometime in mid-season. Also, there was a merger over the offseason. Joe Dinette Motorsports, entering into their sophomore season, announced a merger in the offseason. They'll be partnering with NTS Motorsports to field the number 9 Chevy Silverado for Ron Hornaday Jr. and the number 14 Chevy Silverado for Brennan Newberry. They will also house a third truck with drivers to be announced. Now, it was confirmed that Kevin Harvick will drive both Martinsville races for this team, so you can bet that they'll have a pretty stout showing there. Harvick's always been dominant on the Martinsville track in the Truck Series and even won last year's spring race, so that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Also, Todd Bodine, for you Onion Head fans out there, is not sure if your hero will be racing in the series this year. After facing sponsorship woes for the last 3 seasons, your 2010 champion is without a ride unless sponsorship can be found. Red Horse Racing said they're still working diligently to try and keep their veteran in the fold, but it said they do not look for him to be in a Truck Series ride for them this year. But with that, they announced that John West Townley, driver of the number 7 Zaxby's Toyota Tundra, will be taking over driving duties for Todd Bodine. He'll be using his family's owned company, Zaxby's, to fund his ride, so he will be taking Bodine's spot on the Red Horse Racing team. It was also announced that Series veteran Brendan Gaughan will be taking the wheel of an RCR truck. Richard Childress Racing has been a pretty big powerhouse in the Truck Series over the last few years, so Brendan Gaughan will benefit tremendously from this jump to a full-time truck team. He's run a few truck races for them in the past and some nationwide races, and it's helped his career tremendously, so Be interesting to see how well he can compete in that series. And it was also announced that for some of you older fans, you might recognize this name. Chad Little was announced as the series director. Not really heard much from Little since he left the full-time Cup racing in 2000. So it's nice to see him getting back into a role of racing and hearing old names like that mentioned. So he will be taking over as series director. Now, this is a preview show, so we're going to give you our take on who's going to win the championship and who we think is going to be fighting for the end. Now, we here at High, Wide, and Handsome Studios do believe that Ty Dillon will capitalize on his freshman year and do what his brother Austin did and win the championship. He had a really stout showing in his 2012 campaign. He picked up 1 win, 7 top 5s, and with the mark of consistency in the Truck Series, taking home 17 top 10s. And if it wasn't for a few mechanical issues in the last few races, he would have been your 2012 champion. So I do look for him to pick up right where he left off and springboard into the Nationwide Series in 2014 as your 2013 Truck Series champion. Though, to get that title in November, he's going to have to face off with last year's champion, James Buescher. Buescher had an outstanding season. He was a little bit barred for consistency. He was struggling with that. He only managed 14 top 10s, but this is where he really came out on top. He had 10 top 5s. That was a quite staggering number, but along with that, he also had 4 wins. That was the most in the series for a regular, so be looking for him to still stay in the championship mix. And it was announced that Rheem will pick up half the sponsorship, so he'll have more of a solid footing as he looks to defend his Camping World Truck Series title, and it hopes for maybe going to Nationwide in 2014. Joey Coulter, who finished 3rd last year in the standings, he will pick up right where he left off this year with a new team, racing the last 2 seasons for Richard Childress Racing. He moved to Kyle Busch Motorsports in hopes of getting, just his fair share, because he was kind of playing second fiddle to the Dillon boys. So it's good to see him with a new start, new Truck Series team, and a proven team. Kyle Busch Motorsports is the dominant team when it comes to truck racing, so he should be in a really good spot. He had 1 win last year, 8 top 5s, and 15 top 10s, so look for him to be in the mix, but I don't think championship for this driver. Another one, Timothy Peters, the one veteran who was competing amongst all these young stars, put together a good racing season last year, stumbled in the last few races, otherwise tremendous season, looks to build upon that. Hopefully he'll be in the mix. He had 2 wins last year, 10 top 5s, 16 top 10s, all career best for this driver, so look for Timothy Peters to hopefully stay in the mix. And looking to follow in the tire tracks of Austin and Ty Dillon, another young face, Ryan Blaney, looking to make some big waves in his first full season driving for Brad Keselowski Racing. He won his first race and only his 3rd start at the young age of 18. That's the youngest in career series history and only a year younger than I am. So he's got some tremendous talent. He's been sung the praises of Penske Racing and drivers alike. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I don't think he'll win the championship, though. He'll tell you different. He's expecting multiple wins, maybe 5 wins. And he says he wants to have the championship locked up heading into Homestead. So those are some pretty lofty goals for a rookie, but he can do it. And in only 9 starts, he had 5 top 10s and 2 top 5s. So look for him to make some noise, and I wouldn't expect him to be in the championship fight come Homestead. Now, the thing that sets apart the NASCAR Truck Series as being the most competitive and most diverse series in NASCAR is its mix of old generation and new generation. And this year, we will not have a shortage of new stars. Fresh faces like Ryan Blaney will be competing his first full season. Jeb Burton will be competing for Rookie of the Year title in the number 4 for Turner Scott Motorsports. We saw what he can do driving for a low-budget team last year, so it'll be interesting to see how he fares in his first full season. Chase Elliott, many of you will know him as Bill Elliott's young son. He's still a Hendrick Motorsports development driver, and this will be the first time that Hendrick has been in the Truck Series since the early 2000s, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's only going to run about 6 or so starts for that team in hopes of maybe going full-time in 2014, so interesting to keep a look at that. Ross Chastain had an excellent first season last year for SS Greenlight Racing. It wasn't a fully funded team, and he didn't run all the races, but he made an impact, and that caught the eye of Brad Keselowski as he'll be splitting the number 19 Ford F-150 with Keselowski this year on a part-time basis. Also, Brandon Jones, as mentioned earlier, will run 2 races for Turner Scott Motorsports. He is 16, so he can't run really a whole lot of races, but look for him to pop up in future years. Todd Peck, he's going to run a lot more races. He's a nice guy. He runs for his own team for Peck Motorsports, and it'll be interesting to see how competitive his team is this year. He only made about 3 starts last year, missed 1 race at Iowa. We talked to him after that, and it was really devastating because he really tries hard. He doesn't have a whole lot of money, so best wishes to you, Todd Peck, and hopefully you can get your program right and maybe go for a full season in 2014. So hopefully that'll be interesting to look at. And Grant Galloway, it's not been announced quite what his package is looking at, but he will be running select races for SS Greenlight Racing, as we mentioned earlier. That had Ross Chastain, so it is a good program and a nice building ground for future stars. That's going to do it for us today. Tune in next week as we'll be previewing the Nationwide Series. Many experts are saying this will be the most competitive season in Nationwide history, so that will not want to be missed. We'll have drivers like Brian Vickers, Regan Smith, Trevor Bayne returning to the series, so we'll be previewing them to see how well they'll fare. We'll give you our championship pick, and so tune into that. Also, like us on Facebook. We would love to hear from you, so comment, post, anything. We would love to hear from you. We'll put it on our show every week, so please take advantage of that. It's High, Wide, and Handsome on Facebook, and from all of us here, the producers and everything at High, Wide, and Handsome, I'm Brady Van Sickle, my cameraman Zach Zaboy. Hats off to you, Ty Dillon. You're our 2013 championship pick, and from everyone, have a good night.